Hello, super coaches. It's our late mail podcast for round 10. Heaps to get through, and we start with some positive news on Ryley Smith. So Brendan Hands, who was a guy who has been talked about, could cut into Ryley Smith's minutes, has been cut from the Eels squad. That means we should lock in that sort of regular 60-odd minutes from Ryley Smith, who, of course, is the fifth most purchased player this week. So it is good news for Ryley Smith. Is Ryley Smith still a buy? I don't think so. And as you'll see in my team here, I've still got Mamouzelous in my side. And he is the guy who most people are selling for Ryley Smith. I instead have gone with Like and King Togia. I think he is the cheapie of the week ahead of Smith, even though you are going 1 week early on that. Send through all your questions, guys. I'll get to those in a second. None in there at the moment, so flick them through and we'll get onto those pretty quickly. I'm also going to go through my trades, captaincy. Some new DPPs are about to drop in the game in round 12, so we'll have those later on as well. Send through your questions, guys. None in there yet, so we'll wait and see what's happening there. I'll go straight into my trades for this week. Here we go. We've got a question from Josh asking, can all these shows be shown live on Facebook again? I don't think it's possible. We still, we can do premieres and stuff on YouTube, but probably not through Facebook again. This is from Rory. Is Jazz Tavanga a potential buy? Yeah, I think he is. I actually have him as the best cheapie at hooker. Does that mean he's a good cheapie? No, it just means that hooker is a pretty bad position for SuperCoach this year. So I won't be going there, but I actually think he's a better purchase than Ryley Smith. Sand and Smith. Is Sand and Smith a sell? It's a tough one because they've got the bye this week anyway, so you've been planning for him to be off. It should only be 1 week for that concussion. He's been averaging 60 before that concussion, so it's almost, borderline keeper areas. Plus, he's got an incredible buy schedule. Plus, at hooker, there's no good players there. So, look, I don't own him. I sold him way before I should have. So it's not an issue for me. But, I'd be tempted to hold Sand and Smith if I owned him. Best pod, look, I'm going to get to that in a sec, but Kyle Ero is the guy who's really, KL Ero, now that he's changed his name, is the guy who's really standing out for me. But the guy I've ended up deciding to go for in that CTW position is Herbie Farnworth, and I'll elaborate on that in a sec. Karaz, so Omar's asking, too late on Karaz re-origin. So I've decided not to go with Jacob Karaz, just on the chance that he might get picked for Origin. I think Karaz is in a sensational buy, but you've got so many good buys at pod levels, scoring really good averages at centre wing, guys like Farnworth, Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Lucas, who I already own. So I've actually decided to not go with Karaz just because there are other guys who have a bit better job security. I'm not saying Karaz is a bad buy, certainly not. I really want to get him in my team, and I will be watching with my eyes closed when they take the field this weekend. What have we got? What's the sudden appeal with McInnes? The appeal with McInnes is that there's not actually that much appeal in McInnes. It's just that hooker is a horrible position for SuperCoach, and you know what you're going to get from Cameron McInnes. He covers that first buy as well. So it's not like Cameron McInnes is a particularly good purchase. It's just that at hooker, there's no one good. Harry Grant's injured. Tom Starling the minutes are a little bit iffy. Mamouzelous is injured. The cheapies are no good. It's a really rough position. Obviously, Connor Watson probably has Origin coming up, which means he's got a really bad schedule. It's not a good position. So you got to go with someone, and he is probably the best in the keeper bracket. Is Garner likely to get CTW dual? Yeah, so we'll get to that later on, but Garner, we'll run through all the DPPs, but Garner is one on the list. It will be confirmed when lockout opens in round 12. So it's not going to happen this week or next week. It'll happen when lockout opens after round 12. I'll run through my trades quickly. I've got King Togia in. Let's bring up my team here. I've ended up going Adam Dewey out. You can see here. Adam Dewey out, King Togia in. I've liked what Dewey's done this year, but still, King Togia, I think, is the cheapie of the week ahead of guys like Ryley Smith, etc. So I've decided to go a week early. Looked really good on debut. Yeah, as I said, he's the cheapie of the week. And I don't want to be filling up my team with cheapies that aren't, right in the top tier. So for me, King Togia gets the run, and then Purdue, who I think is a sell because he's peaked. He's made almost 400K, one of the best cheapies we've seen in Supercoach of all time, not just this season. I've bought in Farnworth. I've ended up going with him because, look, it's a tough call. As I said before, you got guys like Carraz, KL Ero, Fletcher Sharp, Lucas, who I've already got, Garrick, who I've already got. Look, my decision-making process was I've already got Lucas, so I'm happy with that. I've already got Garrick, so I'm happy with that. Those two are the top two buys in that position. If you don't go them, if you don't own them, go them. Then I've got Fletcher Sharp, who I seriously considered. I really like him. His base is actually pretty good for a guy that doesn't seem to have that massive amount of runs, that sort of thing, and for a 5'8", for a guy who's actually playing 5'8", even though he's not available at 5'8" for Supercoach. But I just have so many nights. I've got Lucas, Marju, Ponga, etc. So I just had to say no to Fletcher Sharp just based on that. KL Ero, I was so close to getting he was just behind Herbie Farnworth. Herbie's the guy for me. He's got a good buy schedule, can't play Origin. The base stats are sensational. So I've gone with him. And as I said before, Carrazza ruled out just because he might be he is a chance for Origin. And when we've got other guys who are averaging really well in that slot, do you want to take a risk on a guy who is a chance for Origin? If I want to buy him, I'll get him in round 12. I won't be getting him this week. So that's my trades for this week. We'll do a couple more questions. Heaps are coming through. What's this? Would you not trade Munster out for Togia with Origin coming up? Look, that can definitely wait a week. First of all, I wouldn't be rushing to sell Cameron Munster. And then King Togia, ideally as a purchase for next week. I know I'm getting on this week. I'm going early. But ideally, if you can wait for next week. Clay's asking, would you bring in Herbie, Farnworth, or Sharp? Well, I've just answered that. I'm going with Farnworth. But if you don't own a million Knights like I do, then Sharp is really, really tempting. Thoughts on Hines? Well, look, I own Hines. I'm pretty happy to have him in my team. I think he's at a really good price this week. I'm shocked that he's not a little bit higher in the ownership percentages for this week. As you can see, I got him in there. The R on him this week because he plays quite late in the week. That is a key thing for Supercoach as well to look out for. Your players, it doesn't matter if you think, for example, like Terrell May is my second best prop. He shouldn't really be on the bench, but because he's playing late in the week, I chuck the R on him. That means that I can, if he does get ruled out, it's really easy to switch the R to someone else instead of having to rely with switching within your starting team, which is obviously much harder. Jazz, lots of love for Jazz Tavunga. I kind of like it as well. Captain Turbo on Sunday, Arvo. Look, I couldn't bring myself to Captain Turbo right now. I think we'll get to captains in a sec, but I think Ryan Pappenhausen is basically a lock as captain this week. Well, look, lots of people are asking, so let's do captains right now. Who are you chucking the big C on this week? I've gone VC on Ponga. I think he is almost certain to go well against the Titans, and it's at home where he averages before coming into the last couple of weeks, he had actually got 5 tons in a row at McDonald Jones Stadium. Then there was the form slump, but he does love McDonald Jones Stadium. Plus, it's a really good matchup against the Titans. So I think he's a lock for VC. I can't see myself going with anyone else. And then Pappenhausen as captain, it's almost like the Tommy Turbo rule. If he's playing at Brookvale, you have to captain Tommy Turbo. It's similar for Pappenhausen. If he's playing at Amy Park, you have to captain him. Not only that, but the Storm have an incredible record when they are backing up from a loss. So they're going to be fired up. And it's against the Tigers, who have been going pretty well, but, the defense is also not their forte. So it's very obvious for the captaincy from me this week. It'll be VC on Ponga, C on Pappenhausen. I know that's popular, but let's have a look at some of the percentages here. Of course, all this is available in SuperCoach Plus. I can sort by the top 10% of super coaches, see who they're captaining, and you can see Pappenhausen 35%. Very popular. I'm not going to go against the grain. Payne Haas 20%. That's completely boring. I hate captaining forwards, so I won't be doing it. Haas also played a little bit on the edge last week, which I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's probably good for his upside and his minutes, but does it mean he takes as many hit-ups and tackles? I don't think it does. Nathan Cleary is perhaps a tad strange. When the Cowboys play up in Townsville, I'm always reluctant to go against them. And then you got Terrell May, Ruben Garrick. Onto the VCs. Kalen Ponga, really popular, which makes absolute sense. Again, I don't agree with putting the VC on Payne Haas, but, a lot of people have probably had a lot of success this season just by sticking with Haas as the C or the VC for the entire year. Let's go on to the late mail. I mentioned the Ryley Smith news with Brendan Hands dropping out of that team. It means Ryley Smith gets a little bit of a boost as a cheapie, but as I said before, I don't think he is a buy this round. On to Peter Mamouzelous. So he's going for more scans, or he's going for original scans. They had to put it in a cast, his elbow, and he's going for scans, and we'll know very soon on him. NRL physio is saying 3 to 6 weeks, as long as there's no fracture. So, look, we should know within the next 24 hours on Peter Mamouzelous. Who's going to replace Jacob Preston? Based on no mail whatsoever, I think it'll be Jamin Salmon will move in from lock, and then they'll chuck Curran or someone like that in the lock position. But also people are talking up, well, Curran could move to the edge himself. I don't think they can because they're short on middles. And then Harry Hayes is getting talked up too. Based on no mail whatsoever, I think that Salmon will get that spot, but obviously it'll get switched up a bit during that game. On to Jeremy Marshall-King, out for another at least 2 weeks with that leg cut, which got infected, and then it's been opened up again. So he's having some serious complications with that gash to his leg. Unfortunately, he's out for another couple of weeks. And David Fafita at the Titans. Some pretty big news yesterday that he's been sent. We got dropped. Then he got sent for surgery. He's been shopped around. This surgery means he'll be out for around 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, according to Des Hasler. And then that is about it for late mail. Let's take a couple more questions. Bring back SuperCoach Racing. Oh, look, I don't think it's going to happen, just for financial reasons. But I will let Jet Hatton know about that, who's obviously on our podcast for NRL and was on the racing podcast as well back in the day. He'll be pumped that people are still talking about SuperCoach Racing. Mamouzelous to Egan. Thoughts? Look, Egan's got the top average in the position. The thing is, the last couple of weeks, he's really come back to the pack. Plus, he's an injury, concussion risk all the time. So I don't see it. I'd go Cameron McInnes ahead of him if you're looking for someone in that gun category. Top 3 fullbacks. Well, I reckon I'll just show my side here because I think Pappenhausen is great. Drinkwater, Ponga, all good. Obviously, one of those will become Tedesco if he misses that Origin squad. And we don't know what's happening there. I don't think he's going to play for New South Wales. But if he does, he misses 5 of 8 weeks over Origin. If he misses it, he plays all the big buys. So he goes from having an absolutely awesome schedule to having a completely horrible schedule, depending on whether he makes Origin. So I'll be making that call right on. And look, if Ponga makes Origin, then the sell up to Teddy probably makes sense. Suafalongo, I see why people are doing this. I love watching this bloke play. I think he's a weapon. He's a gun. He'll be awesome at SuperCoach at some stage. But you have so many good buys in that position. I don't see why you'd be taking a risk on a guy whose job security is not that great. He's also at 500 odd K, so it's not like he's cheap. I would be looking at him as a quick cash grab only. And when you've got guys for not that much more who are genuine keepers in the position, I'd be going them ahead. But look, I do love watching Suafa'alongo play. On to the DPPs. So dual position updates will flush through in round 12. So as lockout finishes in round 11, they will flush through in the game. Some guys who are confirmed are Isaiah Papali'i, who gets prop. Ewan Aitken gets centre wing. Xavier Willison gets it. Luke Garner gets centre wing. These guys aren't particularly Supercoach relevant, although if you're playing draft, a lot of those guys are, particularly guys like Aitken, etc. So the DPPs are probably more important in draft than they are in Classic. Having said that, there are some big ownership guys in Classic who are set for DPPs. One of those is Lycan King Togia. He's played one game, so he's got 2 more games at halfback, and then he'll earn that position for Supercoach. So if he stays in the team, stays playing that position, he will get dual position for Supercoach. Dylan Egan is a really tough one because he starts on the edge, then moves to the middle. But when he plays in the middle, is he playing prop or is he playing lock? So we're going to keep that up our sleeve. Not sure what we're going to do there. We've got 2 more weeks to watch how Dylan Egan is used for the Dragons. But it'd be huge for Supercoach if he did, because he's a very popular player. Latrell Mitchell, he's fullback only. We've decided not to give him dual position yet. He's played basically 2.5 games at 5'8", which is probably not quite enough. Plus, there were injuries involved in those switches. Wayne Bennett has said that he is the fullback going forward. So we're a bit worried about how much more 5'8" he's going to play. We've got 2 more weeks to make that decision. He is on the watch list, but certainly if he plays, much more at 5'8" in the next 2 weeks, then he will earn dual status, but he does need to play there a bit more. On to Payne Haas. So Payne Haas played a little bit on the edge over the weekend, as I mentioned before. Lots of people are asking for dual position on Payne Haas. I can tell you now, it's not going to happen. He probably spent 10 minutes in there max. So look, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but certainly it won't be happening for round 12. And then finally, Keon Kaloa-Matangi, front row. He's back row only, but he's been named in the front row this week. He won't have enough starts in that position to get there for next round. We'll take a couple of questions till the end of the show. JDB pretty clearly plays lock when he's on. That's Egan plays FRF. They've also got Hamish Stewart, who's been getting named at lock, so it's hard to know what's going on with that rotation there. We will, as I said, keep you updated on Dylan Egan going forward. Shibasaki, a keeper, 61 average. Look, the average is good. I sold him a couple of weeks ago. I think you can get him up to guys like Farnworth, Eero, Karaz, etc., Garrick, Dylan Lucas for not that much, and I think they are better buys in that position. So I'd be making those switches. On to what else have we got? Did you end up bringing in King Togia? Yeah, I did this week. It is a week early, so you can hold off. Is Ola a buy? Look, I'm just a little bit worried about Origin, so he's one of those guys that I'd be bringing in for round 12. Well, look, we've hit basically 20 minutes, so we'll call it a day there. Big thanks to everyone chiming in today in the Late Mail podcast. It's going to be a huge weekend of footy. Hopefully you pick the right captains. Ryan Pappenhausen C at Amy Park is almost a must, and the VC on Kalen Ponga for me is almost a must as well. Catch you later, folks.